The entire system for doing labor, for working across your lifespan, had changed with the Industrial Revolution. And individuals and states and countries had been figuring out what to do about the end of the work life not coinciding with the end of the biological life. 90 years ago today, August 14th, 1935, FDR signs the Social Security Act that starts giving some sort of system for letting people receive payment at the end of their work life. Across human history, this had been a vulnerable moment at the end of people's lives where they were still alive but not able to fully work. But there had been some things that had made it worse with Industrial Revolution and a changing kind of system of workforce, people moving into city areas, people beginning to move separate from families in some ways. In the United States, there had also been this kind of strangeness where, because of the Civil War, all the Union soldiers had received pensions, and a lot of the states had pensions for Confederate soldiers. And so, for a very long time, all of that particular generation had actually been protected, and their wives had been protected from kind of that cliff at the end of productivity, even when they had been involved in careers and labor forces that had that cliff. So in Europe, we had seen in the 50 years before the Social Security Act, these systems begin kind of being rolled out. But in the United States, it didn't happen until just after the Great Depression hit. And suddenly the conversations that had been happening kind of came to the forefront of we have to figure out a broader social safety net because part of the economic catastrophe of the Great Depression was the way that so many people were already on the edge. When FDR signed the Social Security Act into law, he was very clear in his language that this was twofold. It was to protect the workers, the individuals, right, and give individual citizens protection. But it was also very, very clear that this was to protect the United States economy, that this inflation and deflation spikes that were being felt were in part because there were these pockets of people not being properly supported. And that having these highly vulnerable populations that suddenly couldn't support themselves was a huge risk to a country and its economic stability. So 90 years ago today, they signed a law into place that was going to put in protections to make sure that at the end of a worker's lifespan in the labor force, they had some sort of protections.